Hello again, everybody. This is Dan Clouser, and welcome back to the Journey of My Mother's Son podcast. Today I'm joined with somebody who I haven't seen in 25, 28 years or so, but one of the original pioneers of the Berkshire baseball organization. Played on our second year in existence with the Berkshire Red Sox adult team in college at the time. We're at his high school where he's a counselor in North Stokes in Danbury, North Carolina. Sauer. Stefan, thanks for joining me.
Dan, thank you so much for having me.
No problem. So I watched him coach last night, and he was not expecting us to be there. So Sandy and I left on Monday to head south, and I'm looking through where we're going to be headed, and I realized we wouldn't be too far from Danbury. And then, as it turned out, he was playing last night in Mount Airy, and I didn't know anything about the whole Mayberry connection, Andy Griffith connection to Mount Airy. So my sister-in-law Cheryl told us, hey, that's where Andy Griffith based his theme on, and yada yada yada. So it was perfect. We ended up going to Mount Airy, spending the day, and then capping it off with some high school baseball where you guys picked up a 10-5 win over one of your rivals. So
Absolutely.
again, I didn't tell him I was coming. So before the game, we made sure we were there early. I just kind of walked over, and what do you think when you looked up twice?
Absolutely shocked. I saw a person coming towards us. I thought, well, it could be a parent. It wasn't someone I recognized from a distance, and as they got closer, I knew who he was right away because it wasn't. I didn't have to stumble, but it's like Dan Clouser, that's Dan. And I knew that you were kind of out and about doing what you're doing, which I think is awesome. And it was just, it was almost surreal. It was just one of those things where I never in a million years, if you would have said you're going to see somebody today from your past, I would not have said it was you. But man, it made our night. It was incredible.
That's so cool. That's
Yeah.
one of the things that, I told you what my mom did, and that's part of the inspiration of Sandy and I doing what we're doing now. That was one of the things she did religiously, was just surprise people and show up. I mean, my brother was in the Army, and she would show up on the doorsteps of some of his old Army GIs that he would, bring home on leave with him, so to be able to do that to you was really cool, and
Yes.
to see that smile and that sense of,
It was awesome.
what are you doing here?
It's
cool.
no more. I mean, could not have been any more genuine. And the ironic thing is I drive the bus, and we actually drove right past Dan's RV, and my assistant coach was sitting next to him, and he's like, "Oh, Mount Airy must be big time. They have RVs camping out for their games now." And we drove by, and we parked the bus, and never in a million years, if I would have seen Dan standing outside the, I would have recognized you. I know, because you have not changed much. You have not.
I have the beard now.
Yes,
I didn't
yes.
have the beard when you were playing.
But and I think seeing you on Facebook also, you're kind of familiar, even though I haven't seen you. But to see you walk over, my mind was completely blown.
Yeah, cool. And that's one of the things with this trip that has been so great, is being able to connect with guys. I mean, thank God for Facebook. I know a lot of people say, "Oh, Facebook is just a cesspool of political garbage." It is if you want it to be, but if it's a time to connect with people that you haven't seen in a while, it's great. And thank God for Facebook, because otherwise I wouldn't have known that you're coaching at North Stokes, and I wouldn't have looked on Max Preps for the schedule and saw you're in Mount Airy. So
Yes.
it all worked out. But so want to talk a little bit. Obviously you got your start with us playing, and it's funny. I always refer to you as one of my old players, but truthfully, I never really coached you other than one game.
Mm-hmm.
Because I was the general manager of the organization. So when you first came on, Del Mintz was the coach, and then Phil Racuglia became the coach. But I coached you in one game on August 1st, 1994, which is the game we played out at Reading Municipal Stadium against a bunch of women called the Colorado Silver Bullets. And
Yes.
I want to point out the bat here behind me is actually from that game.
Yes.
So obviously that game had an impact on you.
Yes. Yes.
So I've been heavily involved in women's baseball recently because of that game. Why do you still have that bat in your office?
It's one of those things where I wish I would have known how big of a deal it was when I was actually playing that game.
That's true.
I was fairly young, 94, that probably put me at about 23, 24 years old. I had no idea how significant that game would have been in my life. So that is the one thing that I remember being there, and I dug it out of my bedroom when we moved down here from Pennsylvania, and it's like, oh my gosh. I remember players rolling baseballs back and forth to Joe Negro, getting his signature. I was too stupid to do that, not realizing where I was at and what was going on. So I guess it's just one of those things that tie me back and really drives home the significance of what that game meant.
Yeah. And as you know, I've told you I've reconnected with a couple of those players, and it's funny, talking to both Missy Combs and Michelle Deloso, and they talked about they were really doing it to inspire young women and that sort of stuff. And I said, well, you may not know this, but you inspired some men along the way as well.
Absolutely.
And when you tell them that, they're kind of like, wow, that's so. I knew what the effect it had on me, so to be able to have it from someone else who played in that game, and we only beat them 4-0. And quite frankly, if it wasn't for Troy Roberts being on our team,
Yes.
who was responsible for 3 of those runs,
Yes, I remember. Yeah.
we beat them 1-0.
Yes.
So
Yes.
I think obviously it's not like we had a big group meeting prior to the game, but I think everybody on that team was just approaching it as another baseball game.
Yes.
And we didn't go out there and look at it like, oh, we're playing against girls. It was just like, look, they want to play baseball, we want to play baseball.
Yes.
So we're going to compete, and it's just that simple.
Yes.
And obviously for us, we're all amateurs. By that time, they had already had 30-some games under their belt. But we played in front of like 8,500 people that night.
Yes.
Which was by far the biggest crowd that I'd ever coached in.
Absolutely.
Prior to that was our Graterford prison game.
Yes. Which I also tell my kids about a lot.
So for us, it was really just being in front of a cool crowd like that. For them, it was just business as usual.
Yeah.
But, is there anything in particular about that night that you remember?
Unfortunately, the one memory that sticks out for me is me hitting into a 6-4-3 double play. I there was a 2-hopper to the shortstop, and they had me by about 3 steps.
Yeah.
So that's the one thing. Like I said, the amount of fans never playing in front of that people other than the general population at Graterford.
Yeah.
That was just incredible, and just the buzz was in the air, and just I think there was something. I think we got little baseball cards from, and I remember going through looking at the cards. I'm like, oh my gosh, we're gonna be playing these ladies.
Yeah.
And but just the amount of people that were there and the coverage, I've never experienced
Yeah,
anything like
it was
that.
crazy. The scrapbook that I did have of it, I got rid of. I sent it to a friend of mine who's a women's baseball historian out in Ohio, because I figured she could definitely put this stuff to use. Because unfortunately, in women's baseball, those silver bullets have kind of been a forgotten generation. Everybody remembers the All-American Girls Professional Baseball League because of a league of their own.
Right.
Now, a lot of people who follow it now are familiar with the U.S. Women's National Team, who, those who actually know there's a women's national team. But then there's kind of this forgotten generation of the silver bullets. So my friend Leslie out in Ohio, they're trying to revive that a little bit, and a lot of other people are trying, because those women did play a significant role in getting women's baseball to where it is today, and it's still got a long way to go. There's a professional women's league in Japan, and here we are in America, where it's America's pastime.
Right.
We're still kind of trying to figure it out. So hopefully it gets there, but it's awesome to be able to reflect on that and think of the impact that it had on both of us.
Absolutely.
At that time. So let's just one more trip down memory lane. We talked about the Graterford game a little bit, so let's talk about that a little bit more. We went and we played a game at Graterford Prison, which is a maximum security prison in Pennsylvania. And what do you remember from that, man?
I remember getting our backs searched going in. I remember people looking underneath our cars with mirrors and dogs, checking to make sure we weren't smuggling anything in or smuggling anything out. It was just such a unique experience, because we were out, and when the game started, it was basically the players and a couple coaches and a couple guards, and our guys. And the next thing you know, we hear a couple buzzers ring, and we hear literally the slamming gates or whatever. And the next thing you know, and I may be high with this number, but I felt like about 3,000 people joining
I
us.
think that's a pretty accurate number.
And there was no fence. I don't remember there being a fence. It was kind of a roped off area. And they packed that place in, and it went from being a pretty relaxed experience playing in a maximum security prison to actually a quite frightening experience. And if I remember right, most of their home fans, I guess we can call them, that they were pulling for us. They were kind of criticizing their own.
Yeah, and I think that changed a little bit. I think they were kind of fair weather fans because we beat them pretty handily.
Yes.
The final score was 18-6, and I think in the first inning we put 3 or 4 runs on the board. The fans started cheering for us because
Yes.
they had no problem
Yes.
giving their guys jabs.
Yes.
So yeah, they were a little bit of fair weather fans for no doubt about that. But it was funny, you know, because one thing I remember about that is after the game, we were going through shaking their hands, is just how grateful those guys were
Yes.
that we played. And you know, I remember that from when the coach had first reached out to me. And I mean, you know, back in those days, man, we went anywhere. If you had a ball and bat, we would travel to play. It was just that simple.
Yeah.
So he called me up and was like, "Hey, you know, I'm with the Graterford Pirates, and you know, we're interested if you guys want to come down and play us. He goes, we can't play any road games, so you got to come to us." And I'm like, "Hey, we'll come play."
Yes.
And you know, I remember you know, telling Dell initially, and he was like, "Yeah, man, let's do it." So we went down there, and Dell and I were the first ones that went into, you know, the search area and then the holding chamber that we had to wait in. And I remember this like it was yesterday. Dell and I are just standing there waiting for everybody else to go through security, and there are all these pictures of guards on the wall. And Dell's looking up, and he's like, "So what, are these guys like employee of the month? What do you think?" And then he said, "Wait a second, these are all guys who've been killed in the line of duty here." And he just looked at me and goes, "What did you get us into?" I'm like, "Hey, they're looking for a game, man." You know?
That's my mom said something similar. I was still living at home, and you know, I kind of told her, you know, where we were playing and what we were doing. And we, like you said, we were everywhere. We were in Delaware one weekend, and southeastern Pennsylvania, and outside of Philly, and Fairmount Park, and all those places. And when I told her, yeah, we're heading down to play at Graterford Penitentiary, she's like, what? What do they have you into? What type of team are you playing for? I said, I don't know. I'm just showing up and playing baseball,
Right.
and that's what we did.
Yeah, yeah. That was a blast. That was a blast. So
Yes.
I don't want to get too far into memory lane because that could turn it into a 3-hour podcast. But let's just shift a little bit to now. So you moved down here to North Carolina about 12 years ago. Came here to North Stokes. You're a guidance counselor and now the head baseball coach. You've been the head baseball coach for 8 years. You were the assistant for 4.
Mm-hmm.
What made you want to get into coaching?
It really, a big part of it was I wanted to get back into baseball somehow. Was no longer in the physical shape to get back into, and we don't quite have the leagues and accessibility down here that we did in Pennsylvania. Just getting back into the game and helping the kids, helping teach the kids to play baseball, I like to say the right way.
Yeah.
You know, with class, with motivation, just with desire and want to. That's the hustle, do the right thing, play the right way. My American Legion coach, Dick Ochnauer, you know, he to me was one of the most influential people in my life. And I always remember how he taught us how to play. And I wanted to bring that here. So that's kind of when I had the opportunity, that position kind of came open as far as assistant coach. They're very active in getting staff people to work with the kids athletically, all sports across the board. So when I was given that opportunity to at least get on board as an assistant coach and get back into baseball, it was a great opportunity, and I jumped all over it.
Yeah, that's awesome. And you brought up Dick, and obviously, you know, from his coaching style, I could see that in you last night. To also the amount of uniforms that North Stokes has. So you went through, were they the Muhlenberg A's then, or they're still Temple?
They were still Temple A's, yep.
But I mean, you guys always had, you know,
Yes.
10 different styles of uniforms, and that was something that
Always white
we
shoes
were-
though, always white shoes.
yeah, which I hated when we first started playing for us. But you know, in our younger, you know, as we started out, that was one of the things at Berkshire that we were doing too. Was just we were adding every year. We added a jersey.
Yes,
Every
yes.
year we added the jersey. Because again, it makes you feel like you're part of something bigger. You know.
Absolutely.
So, what is it about, you know, the uniform component that you wanted to kind of carry Dick's legacy down here in North
Well,
Carolina?
I agree, and it was that kind of just the different combinations, and I'm gonna be honest, the kids absolutely love it. There's definitely that influence of Dick, what he had done with the uniforms, and we had the grays, and we had the whites and the yellows, and you know, the different pants combinations and things like that. That has always been there, and it's probably has developed my jersey fetish that I have now in collecting, you know, different professional jerseys. But the big thing is giving back to the kids, because I remember how special it was for us. As players, you know, teenagers, getting those different jerseys and different combinations, and it was always funny because, you know, we always had to check with Dick, and that was before social media. There wasn't text messaging, hey, we're wearing grays and this. It was literally, you need to pay attention to what that was going on, or keep everything in your trunk of your car so you wouldn't have the wrong thing. And Dick expected everyone to be there dressed to how he told us to be dressed. But I just always remember how special it was. You know, a lot of other teams had a uniform, or maybe a home and away. We had who knows what. And playing, you know, sometimes we play 2 or 3 games in a day at a tournament somewhere, and literally dressing a different way every game. It was just special, and I know how I felt. So when I got the opportunity to be head coach here, it carried over. And I'll be honest, it's bad. I could show you our locker room, and we could probably go 24 games without wearing the exact same thing. We have 5 or 6 hats, and it is excessive, I admit. But the kids absolutely love it,
Yeah.
and we do it for the kids.
Yeah, and that's the same thing. Once the Berkshire organization evolved and got into that youth component, it was something that we just carried on from there as well. And you know, and we liked it as, you know, young adults having all those different uniforms. But like you said, when we did uniform handout, and these kids would come in, and you know, they got a duffel bag, and then they had 4 jerseys and 2 pair of pants, and we always kind of stayed to one hat, just because we had different age groups. Phil, when he coached, he talked me into letting the 18 and under team have 2 hats, of course. But you know, just seeing there, because again, they're walking out and like, man, this is like Christmas.
Yes.
And when you see that on a you know, young person's face, again, all the hassle of you keeping it straight and getting it ordered just is okay in that moment.
I agree. Yes, absolutely.
So that's cool. And it's funny that you brought Dick up, because I was going to, because I told you I texted Phil this morning,
Mhm.
sent him the picture we took last night, and I'd said to him, I read you the one text, but I didn't give you the whole conversation. But I'd said to him, I said, you know, watching Stephen coach last night was really special, because he kind of had that same demeanor as, you know, myself and you and Blummy. And I said, I'd like to think that's a little bit of a Berkshire thing. I said, but I know for you 3, it's probably a lot more of a Dick thing than it is a Berkshire thing. I said, but I still will take a little bit of Berkshire credit
Absolutely.
as well.
Absolutely.
I said, but you know, I said, I think Dick would be smiling down on you 3 guys for sure, because we talked about Phil a lot. We didn't talk a whole lot about Chris Bloom, who was the college coach at Kutztown University, winningest coach in Kutztown history.
Right.
But again, being around you 3 guys, I never played for Dick, obviously, but when I coached at Conrad Weiser, he was a guy, due to hearing stories of you and Blummy and Phil, who I was drawn to. So at a meeting, when Dick spoke, I was listening.
Yes.
You know, after a game, Dick and I would have a conversation. I was a young coach at that point,
Mm-hmm.
you know, first time really coaching kids, you know, so I wanted to kind of, you know, learn from somebody who I knew, you know, was doing it right. And, you know, first thing I did when I got to Conrad Weiser as Legion coach is, you know, scrapped the old 6-year-old uniforms they had and went out and, you know, on my own dime, bought new jerseys and 2 pair of pants and the whole 9 yards. So, you know, is there anything, again, specifically that comes to mind when you think of Dick Docknauer?
Everything he did was 100% and 100% for the kids. Dick never took an inning off. Dick never took a pitch off. We could be down 16-3, up 16-3. It didn't matter. And I know when I bring this type of stuff up, the stories he would tell, just the memory he had and how he cherished every team. There was always a memory from a certain team, whether it was the 85 team, the 87 team, or whatever team, there was always memories. And he was passionate about what he did and spoke about the players like they were his own kids. Yeah. Treated us like we were his own kids. Did everything for us. I mean, he was my dad from the 16, 17, 18 years old. Those were the 3 best years of my life. I would not trade those for anything. The American Legion game, and Dick played every night. I mean, it was 4th of July tournaments. We probably played, gosh, guys, 40 plus games a summer, yeah, where everyone else was playing 18, 20, conference schedule plus a couple non-leagues or whatever. But we just played baseball, and it was fun. And he had a way of making every kid on that team special. They got playing time. They were part of it. They were involved. But just an awesome guy, and never a season goes by that I don't think of him. Games don't go by that. I mean, just think of what would he do, yeah, and just the inside jokes he used to have, and the different types of jokes we had, and no one ever wanted to get behind when Dick was driving, because when Dick was driving, he would go about 25 miles under the speed limit, and you knew when he was 2,500 miles under the speed limit, he was probably telling you a baseball story about the 85 team or the whatever team, and we just knew. But he was so comfortable with us, and he was just always there for us.
Yeah, yeah. So I'm sure now you're starting to get some of those old memories, some about, you're 12 years under your belt as head coach. I'm sure you're probably seeing a lot of Dick in yourself as you look back and reflect, and every season, because I know I do it all the time. I mean, when I connect with you guys, there's always a story that we can talk about. So, what, I mean, those stories, those life lessons. I mean, in the moment as a teenager, did you think it would have the impact that it does on you now as an adult?
No, most definitely not. I knew he was special, and I knew one of the neatest things about Dick, no matter what you did, there was never a yelling. I don't ever remember that man yelling at me. However, he garnished my utmost respect at every time. He did not need to scream and yell and have tirades. It was always, you knew he expected the best out of you. And if I, for whatever reason, didn't feel I gave him my best, I was disappointed. Yeah. He never told me he was disappointed in me. I don't know if he ever yelled. I really, really, really don't. So I try to carry that with my coaching style. Yelling at kids, a shortstop makes an error on a baseball, there's no way that kid wanted to make an error. So what's the sense in beating that kid up?
He's already beaten himself up.
Yeah, I know how I felt when I made many errors. So no, it's my job is to uplift kids, and that's how I felt Dick was, and I had no idea at the time what a figure he was going to be. And even going back, it was really, really hard for me to go back up to those games at Temple and watch the kids play. A couple of years, I missed it. It was when I would walk up those steps, it was like someone punched me in the stomach. Yeah. I just missed something missing in my life, and eventually I was able to go back up and talk to him, and was able to thank him for what he's done and what he did for me. But I really didn't understand what he was doing until I got up here and actually started coaching. Then when he passed away, gosh, that was awful, and a lot of the memories came flooding back. But as far as coaching goes, until I actually started coaching is when I really realized, hey, he had a major influence in the way I look at a game and manage a game and call everything. And boy, I'm eternally grateful. And it's just awesome. Bloomy was our third base coach for American Legion. He's a little bit older. I never played with Bloom, but knowing that Bloom did what he did at Kutztown and Phil, and now you told me that Sal's at Wilson. I love just the idea of that Goffenauer coaching tree is kind of the way I like to look at it. And I don't talk to those guys anymore. I wish I did, but I'm just thankful for all of them. And growing up with all of them was just awesome.
Yeah, it's awesome. And I mean, is that a little bit of your motivation today as you're going out there with the kids and understanding that, in 20 years from now, these guys are going to think back. I want them to have the memories that I have of Dick, not negative memories. Is that part of the motivation why you do it?
Absolutely. I hope that someday, even if they don't remember specific games that we did well, I just hope they remember my demeanor as their coach on the field, the way we handle situations, Screaming and yelling, don't need to do that.
Right.
Working through things together, and also off-field stuff. If they ever need to come to me, that I was always that person that they had. We just do things all the time, and I remember Dick. It was ranch. If we beat someone out towards West Lawn or whatever, we stopped at the ranch house, and dinner was on Dick. He was always that motivator, and we have carried over. We will stop at a Mexican restaurant if we have a big win, and the kids. I think little stuff like that. You remember, even after last night's win, the kids wanted to stop at a cookout, and I missed the turn because I was worried I drive the bus as well, so I was coming up on a railroad track, and I was too worried about putting the four-ways on and opening my door and doing that, so we missed the cookout, so we ended up going a little bit out of our way to hit the next cookout for the kids, just because it's what Dick would have done that. That's what he would have done, so absolutely all the time.
Yeah, that is so cool, man, and it's great to be able to, understand, and you and I talked before we started recording about, there are a lot of coaches out there who don't do it the right way, which is really a shame, because I think that it hurts the game overall, because at the end of the day, these kids, you don't realize how much of an influence you are on them, and I wish some other coaches who did take that, screaming and yelling mantra would just kind of ratchet it back, and you can make your point without raising a voice. And I just did a podcast with another one of my old players a couple weeks ago, who's now a mental health professional, and he talked about the best coach he ever had was Wayne Smith at Orange County Community College, and he said exactly what you just said about Dick. He goes, my 2 years there, Wayne never yelled at us. He goes, well, actually one time, and that's when I intentionally hit a batter, but I kind of deserved that. He goes, but even though he never raised his voice, he goes, we, exactly like verbatim what you just said, we respected him. We did not want to let him down. And that truly is. And I mean, I seldom ever raised my voice coaching. And if I did, then the players really knew I was serious, And I think that's just one of the things, you don't get respect just because the title coach is behind your name or in front of your name. You've got to earn that respect, whether it's a little leaguer, a college kid, or a professional athlete. So, now that you've been here at North Stokes and you've built this program, what are some of the things you're looking at in the future of North Stokes? I mean, getting through the season, I know you said COVID was tough on you, so you're kind of in a rebuild mode, not really because of anything that anybody did. So how are you looking at moving forward?
It's a reprogramming mode almost this year, and we've been fortunate, because I know the other sports here, they were playing basketball with masks on. Can't imagine that. So they've kind of relaxed some of the outside things. Our ball players, as you saw last night, did not need to wear face covering. So we are kind of fortunate a little bit more so than the other sports that were prior to us. We do have some leniency there, but it's really just getting the kids back in the swing. So many of these kids literally lost a season of baseball. We played 6 games last year varsity-wise. Our JV kids only played three games. Nothing over the summer, really not much. We had limited fall interaction and practice and workouts. So these kids have lost so much. So it's really kind of making up for that lost time. That's a big thing right now this year. Get as much baseball in as we possibly can. Be successful, but get as much in and allow the kids to have fun. That is one of our big words. Have fun. They're out there to have fun. They're not out there to be screamed at or to. I mean, there's work involved and there's lessons to be learned, but have fun is the priority. Long-term lessons, we still have a lot of unfinished work here. We have had a couple good runs. I would love to bring some more winning back to North. Conference championship, that's never been done here. Just small things like that, just kind of pieces of the puzzle I like to kind of create. Also working on our facilities a little bit. We have had some really good fundraisers, trying to earn some money to kind of make our field a little bit better place for the kids as well. Because that's also another thing that Dick did. I mean, he put the lights in. I mean, he put the submerged dugouts in. He did so many things, and I'd like to bring that up here as well. It's now called Gocknauer Field for good reason. Absolutely. Without a doubt. No one else should be on that. Absolutely. So we're just about out of time. Any things that we
didn't cover? I mean, there's a million things we didn't cover, but any things you want to mention before we get on to our last question?
No. I just really, once again, I want to thank you. Like I said before, I'm a fairly emotional person, and I was just blown away. And for you to take that time to think of me after we've had the Facebook communication, but not to have that face-to-face interaction for, like you said, 20 plus years. For you to take time out of your day and drive out to where we were playing, watch one of my games with my kids, and just spend the time we had last night, and then also to come to my office and we talked for, a couple hours. You have no idea what that means to me, and what a great person you are to do that.
Thank you.
And just thank you for thinking of me.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It really, it's natural for me. I mean, because you guys have had such an impact on me as well. You know, it's what we should be doing.
Absolutely.
You know? So as you know, the subtitle of the podcast is "Many Little People, Many Little Places," which comes from a song by Michael Franti, where the opening lyrics of his song "Gloria" say, "When many little people in many little places do many little things, and the whole world changes." What are one of the little things that Stefan Sauer does every day to help make the world a better place?
That's actually easy. Being a school counselor and a coach, I have been given the opportunity to be put in a place where I can influence baseball players and non-baseball players, students. I have the opportunity to be dropped off here every single day in a very, very small setting. We only have about 300 kids at this school, and I am put here and I can work with kids, help them plan their future, help them become better individuals, and be here for support of our students. And to me, I cannot think of a better thing that I'd rather be doing.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And from what I can see, you're doing a great job at it. So keep up the good work. And you know, hopefully we get back through here a couple more times and we'll be able to take in a couple more North Stokes games for sure.
Yes.
So I appreciate you carving the time out of your day here, and wish you the best of luck for this season and beyond. And I'll definitely, you know, be following you on social media, seeing how North Stokes is doing, and hopefully that win last night gets you guys heading in the right direction.
I hope so.
2021 season.
I hope so, Dan. Thank you. You're always welcome.
Absolutely. Folks, again, to check out my other blogs and podcasts, check out danclouser.com. Stefan, thanks again for joining me. Love spending time with you.
Absolutely.